COVID-19, but generally we're always talking to our supers, finding out what you guys think. And one of the big things that you have been discussing is the idea of staying connected and how connection really helps with mental health. And look, we're really grateful that we do have Emily Edmond here today from RUOK. She's going to take us through a great session talking about mental health, some tips, why it's so important, and what are some things that you can do, some strategies you can employ. So grab a cuppa if you can in the next couple of seconds, and join us, and I'm sure she'll have some great things to share with us.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro. And hello, everyone. So my name is Emily Emmond, and I'm a community ambassador for RUOK. And it's a pleasure to be part of the Soupfest event today. So thank you for having me. I've got my cuppa, as you can see, so I'm all set. Now, I always get questions about my accent, so I thought it's probably best to clear that out now. I'm French Canadian from Montreal, so if there are any Celine Dion fans in the audience, you know, feel free to share your favorite Celine song. Go for your life. So that means I'm Canadian, so I can hold myself on ice skates on a good day. But I grew up speaking French, which means I can ice skate whilst holding a baguette. Voila. So I'm going to share my presentation with you. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A so I can address any questions that come up. So let me just do that. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to talk about today is how we can stay connected in challenging times. So needless to say, the last couple of months I've thrown us all in the deep end, right? I think that's a bit of an understatement. And as individuals, I think we all struggle with the concept of dealing with the unknown. It can be quite destabilizing, you know, whether it's about work, whether it's about homeschooling a small child, which you can see behind me, or whether it's grasping the realization that leggings are now pants. So, you know, feel free to comment here again if you're wearing leggings today. No judgment. It's perfectly acceptable. So we're all facing a new reality, which can lead to, I guess, a lot of anxiety. And it's important to obviously stay connected with those around us and also check in with ourselves, which I'm going to talk about. So I'm just trying to, okay, there we go. So why do I support RUOK? Well, I thought I would start by sharing a quote from Gavin Larkin, who started RUOK over 10 years ago. For those who are not familiar with RUOK, it is an Australian charity that focuses on suicide prevention. And as Gavin used to say, in the time that you can sit down with someone and have a cup of coffee, you can have a conversation that could change a life. I think that's such a powerful quote, and it eventually became the tagline for RUOK, which you can see at the bottom of the screen. So a conversation could change a life. And in my day job, I'm a marketer, and as a marketer, I love a good tagline, and I also love product placement, as you can see. And as far as taglines go, it doesn't get much better than a conversation can change a life. And that's one of the reasons why RUOK has resonated so strongly with Australians from all walks of life. And over 10 years after it was started by Gavin, it is more relevant than ever before. And why do I say that it's that relevant? Well, we often hear that we've entered an era where we've never been more connected than ever before in the history of humankind, digitally connected, that is. Yet, on the other hand, we've never been more disconnected or isolated. And it's that sense of isolation or that lack of belonging that can be a contributor factor to suicide. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this topic is that, unfortunately, my own family was affected by suicide when 15 years ago, my dad took his life. So that was an unbelievable blow. I mean, it shattered my soul to pieces. And you know what, it's taken many years to learn how to deal with that. But today I'm passionate about educating everyone in the community about the importance of staying connected, and basically just checking in with each other just by asking a simple question. So it is something that's very close to my heart. So I spoke about the simple message behind Are You Okay? But it's more than just a simple message. What Are You Okay wants us all to, I think, to grasp is that we all have the power to make a difference in someone's life. We can all reach out to someone around us and ask the question. And the beauty of it all is you don't need to be an expert. Like, you don't need to be a psychologist. You don't need to be a mentalist. To quote the Urban Dictionary, you do you. You just need to care. And it all starts by having those regular conversations, and asking a simple question. Now, obviously, over the last couple of months, it's been a bit hard to have those regular face-to-face conversations with people around us, but it's not to say that it's impossible. So that's one of the things that I wanted to highlight today. So we'll get into that in a few minutes. So you might have noticed that Are You Okay has been more present, more active than usual for this time of year. Now, Are You Okay Day traditionally is in September. So this year is on the 10th of September. And that's great. And a lot of people will celebrate Are You Okay Day, get yellow cupcakes for the office, wear a touch of yellow. And that's amazing. But I think it's about recognizing that every single day of the year is Are You Okay Day. And that's a message that Are You Okay has been spreading for the last couple of years. And I think as well that the reason why Are You Okay has been more active over the last couple of months is because there has been an increasing number of people who have been struggling, have been having that difficulty coming to terms with that new reality. I wanted to share like a staggering statistic, which is that every year in Australia, the number of people who die by suicide is almost double the road toll. Like, that's outstanding. And when you hear it like that, I guess it gives you a different perspective on the importance of that message. Because the reality is that people who are struggling won't necessarily have the tools. They don't necessarily know how to reach out, how to open up. And that's when Are You Okay comes in. So Are You Okay targets the person who's helping. Like, they target the help giver, not the person who's struggling. So if you think about other organizations like Lifeline or Beyond Blue, they support the person who's struggling, and they do a great job at that. But Are You Okay kind of tips the model on its head, and it focuses on maintaining those strong connections with the people around us, so that people around us feel connected and supported long before they even think about suicide, like long before they're in crisis, which is one of the key takeouts that I would like everyone to remember today. But how do you stay connected? Well, I'm glad you asked. Here's something I prepared earlier. Now, the bullet points that you see here on the screen, you might read and think like, that's obvious, picking up the phone, setting up a time to do a video call. But the reality is that it's easier said than done, rather. Sometimes we'll pick up on something, like we'll know that something's not quite right with a friend or, a family member or a neighbor, but we tend to also shy away from engaging with them in a conversation. It depends. Like, for some people, they'll say, oh, you know what, that's none of my business. I'm not going there. So some people will avoid having a conversation for that reason. Or they'll say, you know what happens if I ask them how they're going and they say that they're really not okay? Like, I don't want to deal with that. So there's many reasons why we'll avoid those conversations. It's easy to hide behind that awkwardness. But just remember, this is not about you. This is about the person you're trying to help. So put that awkwardness aside, put your ego aside for a second. and just reach out to them. And you know what? Yes, there's a chance that they might say, you know what, I would rather not talk about this now, or I would rather not talk to you about it. And that's perfectly fine. And if this happens, it's important just not to say, okay, well, I did my job. I asked them how they were going. They said they didn't want to talk to me, so goodbye. But what we need to do is just accept that and just keep checking in on them, or just say, is there someone else that you could talk to about this? Just keep encouraging them to, I guess, take action so they know that they're not alone in this. And what you can see on the screen is there's connection cards that RUOK developed during the pandemic. And you know what? It's such a cute little thing, like especially if you're, for example, you've got an elderly neighbor and you've noticed that they haven't seen any visitors, they never get any visits from their family or friends. And you just put the card under their door or over the fence and you can start a conversation. You know what? You might get a friend out of it. Now, I spoke about picking up on the signs that something's not quite right. And you know what? It's something that we can all feel, right? So we'll kind of pick up on some signs, but sometimes we're just not sure what to do, or we think, oh, maybe that's just me imagining things. But what RUOK wants us all to realize is that it's actually extremely important to trust your gut, trust your instinct. Because at the end of the day, if you notice something's not quite right, chances are you're probably right. It's better to say something than to say nothing at all, as long as you're kind about it. So the signs that we're talking about here is, what is a person saying? What are they doing? And what's going on in their life? Now, when we talk about what is a person saying, and especially in an environment where we're spending an increasing amount of time online, it could be, the tone that's changed in their text messages or on the group chat, or they're not getting back to you, which is the next one. So what is happening online? Like, we spend, I'll repeat it because we do spend an inordinate, like a huge amount of time online. So that puts us in a prime position to notice if something's not quite right with someone's online behavior. And sometimes we'll see some people post messages online, and it really is like a cry for help. So it's about just checking in with them and saying, is everything okay? Like, I noticed you're not being your usual self. And last but not least, what's going on in a person's life? Now, we spoke about the importance of staying connected. We all go through life's ups and downs, like that's part of life. But the reality is that as we go through grief, or we lose a job or a relationship breakdown, some people will openly show signs of struggle, but many of us, myself included, will just put on a brave face, pretend everything's, A-okay. So if you know that someone in your entourage, like someone around you, is going through a tough situation, don't wait for them to show signs of struggle before you reach out to them. If you know that they're going through a divorce, or if you know they're going through an illness, or Chantal gave the example of, someone having a sick pet or someone losing a pet, like that affects someone's life in a way. There's no harm in saying, like, I'm really sorry, like, what can I do? Are you okay? Like, I noticed you're not your usual self lately, or I can't imagine what you must be going through. And you just have a chat about it. So signs that we need to look out for more specifically when we're being told to socially distance ourselves are basically, what are those situations that could affect the person's life? Like, as I said, is something going on in their life, or does the person live alone, or are they homeschooling like 4 small children, and even though they're telling you that they're okay, that they're struggling. So just try to like break through that wall so you can stay connected. And what RUOK's implemented recently, which I think is great, is a conversation challenge. Like, challenge yourself. as I said before, like put awkwardness aside, make a list of people that you haven't heard from in a while and just reach out to them. It could be a simple text message, it could be an email, a DM, it doesn't matter. Like, just let them know that you're there for them. Now, we've spoken a lot about staying connected with those around us and checking in with people around us. Of course, that is extremely important. But what I also wanted to mention today is the importance of checking in with yourself. So we hear a lot about self-care, and I think self-care starts with self-compassion. At the end of the day, realizing that you're not okay is a difficult acknowledgement to make, but it's an important one. So it's important to accept those feelings and being able to sit with those feelings. And I guess more importantly is, if you're struggling, just know that you're not alone and there is help available. So that is extremely important. And we'll have some phone numbers at the end of the presentation that you can refer to as well. So I'm just gonna check the time. Now, just quickly before I finish, so lately we're seeing restrictions being lifted across the country, which is beautiful. You know, it's encouraging, but a lot of people are feeling anxious about, you know, returning to work or their children returning to school. Or if you're like me, you might be anxious about having to return all the crap you bought online over the last 6 weeks. So whatever it is, just accept it, and make sure you know to reach out if something's not quite right. So, and also stay connected with those around you. To finish the presentation, I like to say that Are You Okay is more than just 4 letters. Like, it is so much more than the sum of its parts. The sum of its parts. It's about connectiveness. And also it's about kindness. So being kind to people around you, looking after one another, and more importantly, being kind to yourself. I would strongly invite you to visit the Are You Okay website at ruok.org.au. There is plenty of information. You can download the conversation cards that I spoke about. You can learn about when and how to start an Are You Okay conversations, like very simple and easy tips that are within everyone's reach. Or you can also download guides that apply to different types of industries. Like, they've got Are You Okay guides for people who work in rail, people who work in law firms. Like, they've really catered their material to suit different areas of the population, which I think is beautiful. So here are the phone numbers that I mentioned earlier. I do understand that the topic of suicide prevention can be triggering for some of us. So by all means, if you need help, don't hesitate to seek that help. Thank you, and back to you, Soupfest. So now, actually, let's get some questions. Yes. All right. So let's see if we've got any questions. All right. So a very good question here. So what happens if the person rejects your help or you make it worse? That is an extremely good question. So a lot of people will avoid having an Are You Okay conversation because they'll say, actually, am I going to put that idea in the person's mind? Like, am I going to be making the situation worse? And the reality is, actually, it's not the case. So by showing to someone that you're there for them, that you're there to listen, you're actually going to improve the situation. Most of the time, all you need to be is a good listener, which is not always easy because it means listening without judgment. So just listening to the person. And you know what? You're not a psychologist, as I said. So it's about referring the person to someone who can actually help them. All right, let's get to another question. All right. Yes, sorry, I'm trying to to read the questions. Oh, yes, someone sharing about the fact they're wearing leggings. I am with you. Thank you. All right. So what if you're unsure on how to reach out to someone you think is in need of a friend? Great question. That brings me to talk about the idea of loneliness. Like, there's a lot of lonely people, and I think at different stages of our lives, we do feel lonely, don't we? And once again, it's about being there just by being a good listener. You know, you don't have all the answers, and that's perfectly fine. No one is expecting you to have all the answers, but just giving someone the opportunity to share their story, to share their burden with you, can make a world of difference. Ooh, where can we get the RUOK cup? At ruok.org.au. They have a merchandise store. It is fantastic. All right, how are we going for time? I don't want to, yeah, we've got a few more minutes, which is great. Okay. Yes, so what to do? Okay, someone is asking about their teenage daughter who is showing signs of anxiety, depression, but doesn't want to talk to people she doesn't know. Fair question as well. That applies to teenagers, but it applies to grown adults as well. So sometimes we'll say to people, I think you should go and see a professional, and they'll be like, no, I don't want to talk to anybody, or that doesn't work for me, or I've tried this before and that doesn't work. The importance is not to give up. And the thing with the therapist or a psychologist is it can take a while before you can find the right fit. Like, your GP might refer you to someone, you'll go and sit down with them for a session, and you can't work with them, and that's perfectly fine. And it's about finding that right fit, which can be sometimes it can be a longer process for some people, but I think it's about not giving up, like letting them know that there is help out there, and help can take different forms as well. Yes, so, all right. Do we have time for? Yes, we do. Good. All right. I'm not seeing a lot of Celine Dion fans in the chat, but that's okay. I'm not going to take it personally. All right. Let's see. Oh, yes. Someone is talking about the concept of stigma in today's society. Yes, stigma when it comes to mental health is increasingly highly prevalent, rather. You know, as someone who lost someone to suicide, like I witnessed it firsthand. So when you lose someone to suicide, your grief is compounded by shame, by guilt, by judgment. Like it is quite a complex grief, unfortunately, that sense of stigma. But also it applies just to people struggling with anxiety or depression, or some people for that reason alone will refuse to open up to others around them because they're afraid of what that person is going to say. So that's why it's important, as the person who's reaching out to someone and saying, how is everything going, just make sure you're letting the person know that you're there. You're not there to judge, you're just there to listen and support them and help them. All right. Yes, what if you find it hard to ask for help and hate accepting help when people do ask you? I'll put my hand up. That is me. How did you read my mind? I don't know. Yes, you know what? In my personal case, it took me, I think, 10 years to ask for help after I lost my father. Like, I don't recommend that. Don't do that. I left Canada. I moved to the other side of the world. If the space station would have been available, I would have moved there. But I think what I would say to that is being kind to yourself. You know, it's really hard to accept that you're not okay. Like, it's really difficult, but it takes a lot of work. But I think if you can get there, it's great if you can accept the fact that you need help. It's not easy though. So yes, I love all the questions that are coming in. We still have a few minutes, which is beautiful. Yep. Loving all the questions. Okay, something about men finding it harder to reach out and talk about their mental health. Yes, so I spoke about the statistic of the number of suicides in Australia and the number of suicides for males. I believe, don't quote me on this, but it's almost double, you know, female suicides. Like, it's horrific. You know, even though I lost my dad 15 years ago, I still attend like a support group for people who've lost someone to suicide. And sadly, a lot of people have lost either a brother, a son, a dad. It's quite staggering. I think that Australia as a society is making progress, like it's slow progress. I think men are slowly realizing that we're all human, we all have emotions, and it's okay to feel and it's okay to share. So I'd like to be on the optimist side of this, like we can do this. All right, well, sorry I didn't get to all the questions. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to ask their questions. If there's any unanswered questions, happy to get back to you after the session. So thank you, everyone, and back to Soupfest.
Thank you so much, Emily, not only for an amazing presentation. You know, a lot of the chat did speak to the fact that we know how important it is to raise this discussion, to stay connected, but it's very hard to know how to do that. And I think it was really, you know, thank you so much for sharing easy ways for us to reach out, and also for sharing such personal stories about yourself as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And as many of you watching today probably know, Social Soup has partnered with RUOK for the last 3 years. And really, actually, that was off the back of doing a survey with the community, and we asked everyone what were the things that were important to you, and mental health was the number one thing, and really being able to help others in that. So our community was really that led us to sort of partner with RUOK, and I know many of our community have also participated in the programs where we've on RUOK Day activated and shared tiles and messages, and I know certainly have been reaching out with friends and family, even more so in at the moment as we have been disconnected. So thank you, and do go on to the if you haven't already, go on to the RUOK website. Lots of great resources and things to share, and summarizes a lot of the amazing stuff that we just saw in that presentation. So yeah, thank you all for being part of that ongoing for the last 3 years. Katie.